Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Inter, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, then be sure to subscribe for all my content coming soon. Today, we're going to be doing the seasons tier list. There's been 8 seasons of Smite so far, well, 7 and a bit. And we're going to rank them all against each other. This will take into account a bunch of different things that happen in the season, you know, the state of conquest, the god releases, new features, new game modes, all that kind of stuff. But of course, this is going to be biased, it's my own opinion of the season, and while generally people seem to have similar opinions to me on seasons, they're not all going to be the same. You're probably going to disagree with some of what I say here. Now, I've seen you guys in my Discord. I know half of you watching are complete weeaboos, and Raid Shadow Legends have just introduced a completely new faction called the Shadowkin, who are heavily inspired by Japanese mythology. Unheard from for hundreds of years and only now returning to the plains of Teleria, this faction is allied with the Dwarven Narisian Union. With so little known about them, the Shadowkin are yet to reveal who they really fight for and whether they are good or evil. I personally really like the look of Jintoro and Genzin. I think they will work super well in my current team. And there's nothing better to do with your brand new Shadowkin champions than jump into one of my favourite parts of Raid, the PvP arenas. You guys know that Smite is my jam, and so PvPing other players to test my skills and knowledge is a huge part of the fun for me. Raid recently celebrated its 2-year anniversary, but the events and tournaments aren't showing any signs of stopping, and with a new rotation of the Doom Tower, there's new rewards and more gear to be won. There's always new things to do and achieve in Raid. The Raid team are offering a huge head start to my viewers, so hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get a free epic champion, Jotun, 100k silver, 3 ancient shards to summon champions, and more. So hop on board and find your rewards in your inbox for the next 30 days only, and I will catch you guys in the raid. But yeah, let's just jump straight in with Season 1. So Season 1 for me is the quintessential A tier season. The Conquest map was pretty decent, it had a very good visual design, I actually really like the style of this season, and while some of the assets and textures are very outdated now, it won't look good compared to Season 8 because it was 7 years ago. I think the overall design of the Conquest map was very good here, but the gameplay was a little bit lackluster. The Season 1 Conquest map was basically the most vanilla it's ever been. It wasn't even like in closed beta when we had side jungles or anything like that. It was very much just 3 lanes and a few camps, that's basically it. No special gold furies, no pyromancer, none of that stuff. And so the gameplay of Season 1 was pretty bread and butter, and some people like that. For me, I prefer there to be a bit more to do, but in terms of visual design, I think this was probably my favourite style of Conquest map of all time, actually. If they did an updated version of this with higher quality graphics, I'd be very happy. The God roster for Season 1 was sort of a mixed bag in my opinion. There was some very cool releases like Nemesis, Osiris, or Wheelix, those kind of gods, but also some really bad ones like Kabrakan and Nox and things that just really soured my opinion of a lot of the Season 1 gods. Old Joust was obviously still here in Season 1, that's a pretty big deal. Season 3, I believe, was when they changed Joust to the Chinese theme. For me, I did like Old Joust a lot, and maybe it's just nostalgia, but I do consider that a positive that this season had the Old Joust map. And also, a final thing for Season 1, they introduced Siege in Season 1, which for me, again, is a positive. I really do like Siege. It's a shame people don't like it as much as I do. And we'll get to Siege a little bit later on when we come into like Season 8 with Slash and things like that, but Siege for me was something I really enjoyed, and especially so in Season 1, because when they originally added it, it was new and a lot of people played it because it was new, so it actually had sort of a decent population and queue size that allowed you to get relatively balanced games, which you can't get in Siege now. Siege games are like some of the most notoriously unbalanced ever because there's no player base for it. But yeah, that's Season 1, a solid A tier. So we're starting off quite strong with these first 2 seasons. Season 2's got to be an S tier season for me. Those of you that know me know I'm a really big solo main, and Season 2 was kind of the solo season with a lot of really fun and really overpowered solo lane gods, and also just solo lane in general being in a state where you got so much farm and so far ahead that you could actually carry the game from solo lane, where it's quite difficult to do that now. There were some really amazing god releases in Season 2. There was the likes of Sol, Kepri. The season started with Bellona and ended with Amaterasu, which are 2 of the best warrior designs, if not the 2 best in the game, in my opinion. I really love those 2 designs a lot, and the season opened and ended with those 2, which really just sets the tone for the season. Once again, the map was quite vanilla in terms of gameplay design. Similar to Season 1, they didn't really add much with Season 2 in terms of changing the overall gameplay of the Conquest map, so it was quite vanilla. Some like that, for me, not so much. Also, the visual design was reworked Season 1 to 2. You can probably see in these images a little bit. It's a lot warmer in Season 1. I much prefer the Season 1 visual design. Season 2's Conquest visual design is actually like the downfall of the season in my opinion. I really didn't like the overall style of it. It was quite a big downgrade, but once again, gameplay trumps visual design always for me, so the fact that like the gameplay was still decent, I don't really mind too much that the visual design wasn't quite there for me. However, one thing we can all appreciate about the Season 2 Conquest map was the beach in duo lane with the crabs and like that golden sand. That was the best duo lane we've ever had in my opinion, and they actually brought that back in later seasons. And from S tier to C tier, we have Season 3 going straight in C. I really did not like Season 3 whatsoever. Season 3 was really the season of bold changes that landed horribly, and it felt like Highways were a little out of touch with what the player base really wanted when they were making these changes in Season 3. In some of these later seasons, they made some very bold changes that actually worked, and they could learn a lot from that, but in Season 3, they tried to make bold change, because like I said, Season 1, Season 2, the map was very vanilla, not much changed from season to season. With Season 3, they tried to go all out on making a lot of big changes to the game, but a lot of them just kind of flopped in my opinion. There was the very controversial Joust rework, which a lot of people didn't like at the time. When I look back at it in hindsight, I much prefer the Season 3 Joust map to the Season 7 Joust map. I really don't like Season 7 Joust whatsoever, but I'll get more into that later on. But yeah, looking back, I would say the Season 3 Joust map was still good, but I can't take my heart off of old Joust. It's just something that I really have a lot of fond memories of, and I still have to prefer old Joust, but I don't hate Season 3 Joust as much as I did when they initially introduced it, I'll give it that. The god releases for this season were pretty meh, to be honest. You had the likes of Skadi and Susano, ridiculously overpowered and no fun at all to play against at release. You had like Izanami and Nike, which I just find really boring gods in general, even though their releases weren't horrifically unbalanced. A lot of really bad conquest changes, like they straight up removed purple buffs, so duo lane didn't have a buff anymore. They put the speed buff on the 3 like elementals at Fire Giant, so you had to fight over speed buff. It wasn't each jungler got one. The junglers had to fight over one speed buff. It was very questionable, to be honest. Golden Bow, when they made Throwing Dagger super cheap and everyone bought Throwing Dagger at tier 2 and potions in duo lane, and hunters just got ridiculously fed. Any hunter could just like get fed and just carry the game. Soul Eater on a similar premise, just a ridiculously overpowered ADC item. I think they've learned from Season 3 that giving hunters ridiculously overpowered items makes the game not very fun for everyone. So yeah, just no good there. And yeah, as I said, Season 3 was a season that tried to make really bold sweeping changes, but a lot of them didn't work out very well. So it's gonna stay in C tier for me. The only season worse than Season 3, though, in my opinion, is Season 4, which is just a little bit worse than Season 3 and will definitely remain in C tier. The god releases for Season 4 were pretty trash, probably about on the level of Season 3, maybe ever so slightly better. They started with Kuzumbo. Kuzumbo's release, if you were around for it, was notoriously underpowered. He was absolutely unplayable at release, and while I do find him somewhat fun to play now, it's taken a long way to get there. His Kuzumbo at release was so bad. RTO was one of the most unfun releases I've ever experienced. Honestly, I might even say she was the most unfun. Release RTO was just the worst, dude. She was just like so obnoxious, so overpowered. No one enjoyed playing against RTO at release. And a lot of the god designs from Season 4 were just like generally not that fun in my opinion. The game really needed change coming in from Season 3 because they sort of destroyed a lot of the core aspects of the game with Season 3, and they really needed to sort of fix what they'd messed up, but with Season 4 they didn't. I don't know if they'd sort of spooked themselves by making big changes that didn't work out, but in Season 4 they basically didn't make any big changes when you really needed some. So it kind of had a similar aura to Season 3 where it just wasn't really that fun. It was a very stale meta in general because, like I said, they weren't making too many changes, and a lot of the top gods were the top gods for the entire season. It wasn't like there was a big patch somewhere that changed everything up. It was like the top gods were the top gods. You basically played like 20 gods for the entire season, the rest were unplayable. The hard MMR ranked reset was the worst time anyone has ever had in ranked in the history of Smite. They hard reset MMR, so you had Masters players playing with Bronze players. This is why you'll hear people saying that like the ranked frames from Season 4 don't mean anything. Like if you have a Diamond ranked frame or even a Masters ranked frame from Season 4, it doesn't actually mean anything, because in Spring Split Season 4, if you went like 8-2 in your promos, even if you were a bad player, you would get put in Masters for going 8-2 because there was no like previous history of MMR to go off of. So if you went 8-2, instantly in Masters. It was really bad, to be honest. The Morrigan, she released at the tail end of Season 3, but like Season 4 was really when everyone found out how ridiculously broken and buggy she was. Like she would just fall under the map, she'd die after ulting, she'd add extra players to the scoreboard. Like it was a bit dumb. She's definitely the most buggy release of all time. They added rituals in Season 4, which were just horrendous. Everyone could buy a combat blink. Everyone could buy teleport to gods and just teleport to one guy in the enemy base and backdoor them that way. Rituals were horrible. It wasn't all bad for Season 4 though, they did add some things. Portal Demon was a cool addition, but not really the best way to go about it. Pyromancer is definitely a lot better than the Portal Demon that they added in Season 4. Some decent God releases, Ganesha and Kukulum were quite cool God releases in my opinion. The Clash rework was pretty cool, retheming it, that was definitely a positive for the season. They added Oracles, they added Chalices, a couple of cool things, but they really don't compensate for all of the bad things that are associated with Season 4, so it definitely belongs in C tier. And before you start thinking that I'm just one of those nostalgia-baiting idiots that's going to put every single remaining season in C tier, that's not going to be the case. Season 5 goes straight to S tier for me. This Season 5 really holds a special place in my heart because it was a turning point for Smite. It was really a decision point. Like, as you were coming out of Season 3 and 4, as I've just described, two of the worst seasons, probably the two worst seasons objectively, but for me, definitely the two worst seasons of Smite we've ever had. The game was just at a turning point where if Season 5 didn't do what it did, if Season 5 was as bad as Season 3 and 4, I think the game could have died right there, like, no joke. Season 3 and 4 really did a lot of damage to the game, and if Season 5 wasn't able to do what it did, it could have gone very south for Smite very quickly. But luckily, Season 5 was an insanely good season, made a bunch of bold changes similar to Season 3, but they actually worked this time. A completely revamped Conquest map with some gameplay changes that I really liked, a new art style which made the game really fresh. Whether you preferred the visual style or not, it's still a nice change to have like a fresh art style. For me, I liked it quite a lot. It was definitely improvement over like Season 4's really boring, drab art style, but I still don't think it beats Season 1. As I said, Season 1 art style was just so good, but Season 5 is probably like top 3 in terms of like map designs. Obviously, the Pyromancer was added this season. A bunch of ranked improvements made the ranked experience a lot better coming out of Season 4 with that horrible hard reset where ranked was almost unplayable. Season 5 ranked felt a lot better. Pretty solid God releases of Season 5. I wouldn't say they were the best God releases of all time, but they had like Baron Samedi and Arthur, two of my favourite gods. Definitely in my top 10 with both of those. Maybe even arguably they're both in my top 5. So really good God releases there. Did have some negatives, like Season 5 removed starter items, which I think was a big mistake, but obviously those were added back later on. Some questionable queuing changes, things like that a lot of people didn't enjoy, they were quite controversial. But Season 5 had to be bold, and it really delivered. The comeback factor is what makes me want to put Season 5 in S tier. Like, not only was it a very good season objectively and just on paper, but the fact that it turned around from Season 3 and 4 and almost revived the game in a way, gave it a completely fresh coat of paint. It achieved a lot of things for Smite, and it does hold a special place in my heart for that. Season 6, solid A tier season. The God releases for this season were really a standout. They were very overpowered at release. Season 6 probably had the worst balanced God releases of all time. Unless maybe you count like beta and stuff like that. Like a lot of stuff in beta was very stupid, like Nemesis release, Guan Yu release, things like that. But in terms of an actual season of God releases, Season 6 definitely the most ridiculously broken God releases overall. There were some more broken ones, like Season 2 had Bologna, Ratatoska, Sol, that kind of stuff. But in terms of overall power level, like all of Season 6's gods were just completely batshit insane. But in terms of like fun factor, I really do like a lot of the god designs that come from Season 6. You know, like some Merlin and Heim, like just super fun gods, but once again, the balance point kind of did take them down a little bit in my opinion. Season 6 improved on the Season 5 formula for the Conquest map by adding a few additional things like the Totem and the additional Gold Furies, things like that. Though I would have liked to see things change a little more with Season 6. Crossplay was added in Season 6, really huge one, being able to play with your friends regardless of what system they're on, except for Sony for a while, but I think we have crossplay with Sony now. And also just the increase to the overall player base size, effectively it triples the player base size, so you get a lot better matchmaking and things like that. And before anyone comes at me saying they're some kind of PC hardcore player that doesn't like playing with Xbox players, it matches you based on skill, it doesn't match you based on platform. There are probably Xbox players that are way better than me. But there are also Xbox players that are way worse than me, it just puts you with people that are on your skill level, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't matter what platform they're on, they'll be at your skill level. Well, sometimes. Matchmaking's obviously pretty bad, but that's not really crossplay's fault. That's just matchmaking being trash in general, but crossplay was a very good addition in my opinion. Roll queue as well, I really like roll queue. It seems to really reduce the amount of people that are just like, rage quitting. It reduces the amount of confusion between what roles people are getting. You just get assigned, it's very easy to see what you have. And while I do sometimes get a little annoyed when I don't get my role, you can't expect to get your role all the time. Even under the old system, you didn't get your role all the time. I think roll queue was a very positive addition. So yeah, Season 6 basically took Season 5 and didn't really change too much, just very small improvements and things like that. But in general, I would have liked to see a little more change with Season 6, and the reason it's below Season 5 is just because of the insane turnaround factor that Season 5 brought to the table. You know, Season 6 basically piggybacked on Season 5 and added a couple of things, whereas Season 5 completely revamped what Season 4 was and made it so much better. That's why I think it deserves a higher placement. Season 7 is going to be our first B tier season. Decent, but not amazing God releases. Cthulhu and Tsukuyomi are really fun in my opinion, but once again, similar to a lot of the Season 6 releases, they were very overpowered and not particularly fun at their release, although I think they are very fun now. Mulan and Baba were very weak and just not really fun god designs in general, in my opinion. And Danzaburo I just really don't like, you know, regardless of how strong he is, I'm not a big fan of his design overall. And also, there was only 5 god releases in Season 7. I'm not going to knock them too much for that because we literally got hit by a global pandemic in 2020 throughout the middle of Season 7. So I'm not going to complain too much on that. But it is a point of the season that, like, there's less god releases than typically, regardless of the reason for that. Season 7, there was just a huge lack of change for me, especially with the Conquest map. Like, yeah, the Jungle Shrine was okay, but, like, does it really change anything? Not really. It just felt a bit stale, and Season 7 really felt more like Season 6.5 and not really its own season. It just kind of took Season 6 and continued it. Season 7 brought the Joust rework, which I really don't like. I mentioned this earlier. I'm really not a huge fan of the Season 7 Joust map, and I actually prefer the Season 3 Joust map a lot more. And even the older Joust map I prefer to the Season 3 Joust map. So you can see that Season 7 Joust is by far my least favorite iteration of the game mode, but I'm not a huge die-hard Joust fan, so take my opinion with a grain of salt on that one. I just don't like it in general. There were some pretty sweeping rank changes in Season 7 that I didn't like, especially the addition of variance. Variance sucks. Like, you start a split if you lose, like, your first 3 games, unfortunately. Not really due to your own fault. You get put just, like, so far down. You lose so much MMR because variance is ridiculously high. You can lose hundreds of MMR in a couple of games because your variance is high at the start of a split. I don't like that. Vision Shard was a really good change though. I like Vision Shard. Bastet and Odin reworks, a little questionable. The Bastet rework was obviously terrible. The Odin rework I think was pretty good, but had a lot of balance concerns at the start. But overall, yeah, Season 7 just didn't change things enough in my opinion. It basically just felt like Season 6 Part 2. There's only so much you can do with piggybacking off of a previous success. Like Season 5, massive success. Really liked it. Season 6 basically took Season 5 and did some small improvements on it. Season 7 basically took Season 6 and did some small improvements on it. It's like, eventually that gets stale, and I think Season 7 was the point where that did get stale for me. Among a few other, like, specifically negative changes, like variance in ranked, the new Season 7 Joust map, kind of meh god releases, makes me put Season 7 lower than these two. And finally, Season 8. Obviously, we can't judge this one fully yet. We've only had a little bit of Season 8 to go on. I would say it's either A or S. I'll put it S for now. I'm going to be generous. Depending on how the rest of the season plays out, it could demote to A, but I don't see it going any lower than that. Season 8, I don't see it being down here. But I think for me, from what we've seen right now, I would put Season 8 up here. The god releases, once again, can't judge them fully, but they've started out very strong. Tiamat, super fun, I like her a lot, even though there's somewhat balanced concerns there. Gilgamesh looks really fun and feels good. He's not fully released yet, but definitely feels very good. And then the god releases they've, like, confirmed, like Morgana Le Fay, Atlas, like, if they add those gods and they work, I'm going to be very happy. Obviously, another huge Conquest overhaul came in Season 8, similar to the likes of what we got in Season 5. Season 8 Conquest, visuals, I don't like them really, to be honest. I prefer the Season 5 visuals, and once again, prefer the Season 1 visuals even to that. But Season 8 gameplay changes, I like a lot. And obviously, like I said, I rate gameplay changes higher than I rate visual changes. And Season 8's gameplay, I like a lot. There's more updates to the Conquest map planned as well. We're seeing sort of the vines that they're adding, the darkening of the Conquest map. I personally don't like those changes, but I do like the fact that they're sort of trying to periodically update the map throughout the season. I think that's cool, and hopefully, like, later on this season, we can get a better iteration of the map. Starter items are back and better than ever. I really love that change. Like I said, Season 5, one of the few negative things I have to say about Season 5 is the removal of starter items, so I'm really happy that they're back in Season 8, and the upgrades to them, they add so much variety. I really like them, so much better than Blessings. They're doing more reworks as well, which I like. I've been asking for them to do more sort of minor reworks to older characters for a while now. You know, they're reworking Persephone and Osiris, was it? No, Persephone and Bastet. Yeah, Persephone and Bastet are confirmed for reworks. And they're also confirming 2 more gods that they haven't announced yet for reworks as well. So I'm really happy that they're doing some more minor reworks to fix characters that are somewhat old or, like, don't really work. Slash should be cool. I really like Clash. I really like Siege. As I mentioned in some of the earlier seasons, like when they introduced Siege, that was a positive for me. Hopefully it'll be good. Obviously, I can't speak fully for Slash yet. We just know it's happening. We don't really know anything about it. We don't even have a mini-map or anything like that for it yet, but hopefully that comes fairly soon and does very well, and I'll be happy with that. And once again, clans returning, we can't judge them yet, but hopefully they add clans back and they're a good thing. It's been way too long for clans. How many seasons have we gone without clans? Is it like 2 or 3 at this point with them not being fully functional or not being there at all? Like, it's a bit ridiculous. They really need to fix that and add clans back, and if they do that, it'll be a huge boon for Season 8. But yeah, that's my season tier list overall. If I had to rank them in specific orders, probably like this. 5 being the best. 1 then 6 is, yeah, that's fine. 3 then 4. Yeah, this will be my exact order from like left to right as well. So Season 5 being the absolute best. Season 4 being the absolute worst. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm sure you have some differing opinions. You could even leave your full tier list in the comments down below if you wanted to. It's only 8 seasons, so I'm sure it won't take too long for you to quickly type out your full response to that. And I'd be interested to read some of those comments. See what the community thinks, if you agree with me or anything like that. I feel like Season 3 and 4 are widely agreed upon to be terrible, and I imagine a lot of you guys would agree with that. Season 5, you can't really dispute that Season 5 is awesome. But I feel like maybe Season 2 might not be people's favourites. I think I'm a little biased there with it being sort of the solo season. And then maybe Season 7, people might like Season 7 a bit more. For me, I just think it piggybacked off of old seasons and made a lot of negative changes that I didn't really like. But I guess objectively, it's an okay season. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below, and I will catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.